Well, welcome to the Loud and Live Sports Podcast. I'm Matt O'Keefe, and I have a couple special guests. Obviously, our consistent co-host, fourth-time consecutive games champion, Matthew Fraser.
What's up? How you doing?
Hey, buddy. And we have Scott Stallings, and we're going to dig in on Scott today. But I will start with Scott's is it 10-year PGA Tour pro? 10-year PGA Tour touring professional, and three-time champion on the PGA Tour. We'll give some context to that when we have this discussion, which is big time. Winning on the tour alone is a crowning career achievement. Played majors, toured the world, and happens to also be someone that has taken a strong interest in put fitness into his life, and CrossFit particularly. So welcome, Scott, and thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for having me. Matt, it's a pleasure. I enjoy watching everything that you do and you guys put out, and appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely. Now, tell us a little bit about what's, let's just, in general, what's going on in your world. I mean, the world's at a halt, and, so that, obviously the golf hasn't been immune. I will tell you that Massachusetts announced today that golf courses are open. Mat Fraser, you'll be excited to know I can golf now.
Good for you. Essential businesses, right?
Yes, it's now essential, but it's exciting times. But yeah, tell us a little bit what's going on in your world with golf.
Yeah, I mean, we just slowly but surely got back into it. We're tentatively scheduled to start back June 11th. So it's, just over roughly 5 weeks, and, playing and practicing. I was talking to you right before we started. I'm at my coach's house today, playing and practicing just north of Atlanta, and, slowly but surely kind of dipping your toe back into it. And we've done it as long as I have, I know what I need to do to get ready. And, it kind of becomes more of a mental side, is making sure that I look forward to going back in there and, kind of get an opportunity to step away that we've had the last few weeks that, we've never had ever in our career, that everyone just kind of got put on hold, and done some stuff I've never done before in my life, from a training side to working around my house. We just moved into a new house in June, and I rented a wood chipper, and I cut down more trees than I've ever cut down in my life. And my wife's calling our insurance guy, like, man, making sure my life insurance is paid and all this and that. It is shockingly easy to get incredibly dangerous pieces of equipment. I was shocked.
I do that
a guy just showed up in my driveway.
I do that every year right after the games. I do like a month. And I just go on I have a chunk of property in Vermont, and it's just like I get a chainsaw and some like heavy equipment and just go nuts. And you show up to rent heavy equipment, there's no background check. They don't check to see if you're capable of driving it. Nothing. They just give it to you.
The guy showed up, and he said, "I'm gonna show you how to turn it on." And he's like, all right, you feel good? I was like, yeah. He said, last question. I was like, all right, here comes the speech and, safety and this and that. He's like, do you have a big gas tank? I was like, yeah, I got 5 gallons. He's like, perfect. I'll see you Friday. And that was it. I'm like, yeah. I just went inside, and my wife's like, how was that? I was like, it's shockingly scary that they just gave this to me, and just have at it, man. And go.
Oh yeah, backhoes, tractors, excavators. You can rent whatever you want. No, there's no accreditation to anything.
I feel like that's the start of the ending.
Yeah, I don't have a background in any of this. Yeah, I was shocked, but it's been a good time. I've got 2 young kids. I have a 7-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter. So kind of managing some of the homeschool, like every other state, Tennessee's kind of been, just dealing with everything. And I've kind of been managing our daughter while my son's doing the school thing with our older child, and just kind of keeping her busy and going on. But it's been a good time for all of us. I think everyone's kind of getting to the point where, sports are starting to become a little bit more of a possibility, and hopefully we'll have a chance to get going here soon.
What's that? Honestly, and I'll have some training questions. Both of us will for you. I think what does that look like? Obviously, similarly for Matt, it was, thrust into, I don't know, when, and certainly his lungs are required for, you know, his profession. So there's a lot of runway on being fit or not. He knows throughout his career on how to, keep it a little and then bring it on. What is that like for you? I asked you this earlier. I said, do you roll out of bed and hit it good and, hit it straight and where you want to? Like, give some context. I think a lot of listeners understand golf through television. But I love golf, so I have a greater understanding of it. But I think they look at people like you and they're like, well, they just must hit it exactly where they want all the time. And obviously there's a lot more to the game, but what does that look like when in a time, you said you didn't hit balls for 30 days. Like, what is it like to get ready?
Yeah, a lot of it, man, is just kind of getting back into a routine and knowing, what it is. And to be honest, man, like I said before we started, I that's the longest I've taken off without actually touching a club in my career. And man, that first day I got back, it was like a kid. And, kind of getting back to, at some point, whatever we did for a living, especially at a high level, we did it based out of a love and a passion for what we do, and trying to develop that even as, get older and older and longer in my career, just figuring out ways to get better and understand that when you go to work, you look forward to it. And I've done a lot of different things practicing over the course of the years, but I wish to say that we all rolled out and we hit it great, but there's some times I never judged the first week, because I've had first weeks where I felt like 2000 Tiger Woods. It's like, I'm going to win every tournament, and then that like 8th day hits and it's like reality just slaps you in the face and you're like, you suck, and like that stuff starts to come back in. But man, I know what I need to do to get ready, just like any high level athlete does, especially when you've done it for a long time. I need to be sharp around the greens. I need to, the mental process needs to be good, and I need to know when the gun goes off that, what I do is ready, and I feel prepared, and, be good to go, when and if, June 11th really does happen or not. But I have no control over that. I can control I do each and every day, and that I will be ready when we do get an opportunity to play again.
Mm-hmm. So when you just mentioned that you just took 30 days off, and that's the longest you've ever taken off in your career, is that like you've never wanted to take time off, or is it that your season is just like you're always training for the next thing?
Yeah, so this is the way golf and NASCAR have the two longest basically calendar years. So we have the regular season that goes from basically early September all the way through Thanksgiving, and then we have a 5 to 6 week off, and that's our longest off season of the year. Mm-hmm. And then we play through the playoffs in August, and then based on how you play all the way into the playoffs, there's truly a chance where the FedEx Cup champion, you have off week, and the next week the season starts over again. Wow. So you got to find some breaks in there and opportunities to kind of get away from it. And I think literally anybody that said that first 30 days was a pure grind session, driving range, playing, practicing, they're full of it. They're 100% lying, because I think everyone looked at it as like, oh, I get a chance to take a break, and basically everyone else has to take a break too. Just from the monotony of what we do day in, day out, and week in, week out. The players was going to be my first of 11 out of 13 of weeks on the road. So I was getting ready to get into the meat of my season. And so basically, like training up to the games or regionals or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like, and then you just sit there and wait. When am I going to get a chance to do this again? You wouldn't. I don't know if everyone's a little bit different, but I wouldn't go right back into just beating balls and doing the stuff I need to do to get ready for a stretch like that. I would take a break and kind of know that, especially looking at it from a physical standpoint, I was going to have a chance to do some stuff in season that I've never had a chance to do in my life. We don't have enough time in off season to kind of, if you want to periodize a strength training schedule or, any kind of cardio training schedule, we basically have to piecemeal it in, week out, and make our best guess of how I'm feeling, how many weeks I've been on the road, and, kind of make do with what we have, just because we play some really, really, really long stretches. So there were some interesting phone calls to be had. And I was telling Matt O'Keefe before you got on, Mat Fraser, that I train with a UFC fighter and a buddy of ours that catches for the Nationals. And we all got on a call. Basically, we all got shut down. It's like, we got a chance to train in the midst of the peak of our careers that we'll never have again. So what do we want to do? And everyone was just like, let's go. Like, what does that look like? I mean, we're going to lift heavy. We're going to run far. We're going to do all the stuff that never in our life, if you'd have told me in, mid-April, I'd be running a half marathon just for the heck of it. I'd be like, you're nuts. And it was like, sure, man, we ran 18 miles. Just like, why not?
Yeah.
We're never going to have a chance to do this
again. You have the time to recover before you need to be on the course again.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I wouldn't do that if I was, playing a tournament tomorrow, but I wasn't playing a tournament for 2 months, so what? And just some different things like that, some training volume. I'm by no means comparing my training volume to someone of Matt's caliber, but for us, I mean, golf was not a focus. It was more just general physical fitness. I had some golf swing stuff that, some physical limitations, basically just going through some of the stuff that I went through is my physical transformation of, going from roughly about 260 pounds to about 185, 190, just dealing with some stuff like that. That's a bit of a
transformation.
I've been there.
Yeah. But just the physicality, I'm stronger at 190 than I was at 250, and I move better, but that necessarily isn't a good thing. And, trying to adjust and just the different things that kind of go along with that, and some time to be able to work on those things has been great. And, we worked with some stuff with my coach today, and there's some ways to kind of look back at some old videos, and it's just like, man, I don't know who that guy is. And, I was just,
how long ago did you lose all that weight?
It was a process, man. Basically into 2015, kind of had a self-realization. I had a bunch of health problems and kind of be able to kind of sort through the weeds and kind of, figure it out. But the end of 2015, I was probably right about 250. And I kind of started training, I got to know Rich pretty well. We both went to Tennessee Tech and started kind of, I had a lot of access to people that were very knowledgeable in the world of fitness. It's not just CrossFit, but just fitness and health and fitness in general. And started kind of dipping my toe and getting an idea of what that looked like. And December of 2017, Froning sent me a text and said, I just started a diet. I was like, if that guy's on a diet, I definitely need to be on a diet. And introduced me to the RP Strength guys. And
cool.
So January 2018, I was 232 and 26%. And I finished the year, that was January 7th or 8th or whatever. And I finished the season. I got knocked out of the playoffs in Boston, which is our second playoff event. And I was 184 and 10 and a half. So
wow. Nick Shaw
some pretty big changes.
Nick Shaw helped my abs show up at one point too. They disappeared again, but LP, he's a great guy. I'm glad to hear you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've met Nick and done some stuff with those guys, but actually the guy that I worked with, I've never met him. But man, you got to send another grown man a picture of you and your weight in your underwear every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Man, you are going to freaking get after it. Maybe I don't know if it was necessarily the programming and the diet, but it was like, man, I got to send this guy this picture. Like, I mean, it could be one of
you just know that shameful Monday photo is coming.
Fear factor. Fear is a great equalizer.
Yeah, like you had a rough Sunday or the night, you're like, oh crap, I got to do this again. And you'd go in there. But Christian Carter, you're out there watching this. I appreciate you, man. You helped me a ton. And Nick and his team over there have been great. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but interesting story about sending pictures in my underwear to a complete stranger.
You're talking about something that I'd like to talk about, because I think it's I've been a fan of the tour since I was a kid, and I remember one of the first things I ever watched. One of my first sports memories is the Jack Nicklaus winning the Masters in '86, and I remember what a golfer looked like then, right? And it was very different than what a golfer looks like now. And you sort of, obviously Tiger became this like, physical fitness freak. And, some would argue that has even debilitated him a little in his career. But, but I know the tour overall has changed in the body type and the training, and it's nutrition based, sleep, everything is now something that you guys pay attention to. And that golfers in the 60s, 70s, and 80s were smoking. It was a big drinking crowd, and everybody was just the shape they were. There wasn't a lot of fitness going on. You were a part of that sort of revolution in the game. And now, there's trailers that travel around with you guys that you can work out in before you play. What's that like now? I know, Dustin Johnson's a freak. Rory loves to, get after fitness, and Matt and Rory are both Nike athletes. Brooks Koepka, those guys all work out before they play. Is that something you do? But like, what's that transition been like? Is that what inspired you? Is it others? Like, I know it's a big piece of the tour now.
Yeah, I mean, whether they look like it or not, everyone's doing something. You can't have that much repetitive motion from just a physicality standpoint and handle the wear and tear, especially if you don't have the almost like muscle endurance to just build up some resiliency. I mean, we're all going to deal with adversity, all throughout our season. It's just kind of who manages his best. And, and I've seen a bunch of Matt's interviews, and, anyone that trains at the highest level, I mean, you're going to hurt. It's just who can hurt the less and the least and kind of endure it the most. And, those guys ultimately deal with it and come out on top. And I think, by no means we're comparing ourselves to that kind of physicality, but we have so much repetitive motion and one-sided activity. You just don't have enough time in the day to kind of counter that. So you do everything you possibly can in the gym and training room and stuff to just try to counteract those kind of things. I was working with the PT this morning before I came to practice. I mean, I was practicing for probably 8 hours today. That was my first big day, long time, and just try to make sure, from a physicality standpoint, I was going to go in there and be able to get the most out of my day and know what that kind of looked like. But I mean, everyone's doing something. Everyone has different training goals or different training methodologies they follow, whether it's, powerlifting or just general. I know guys that just follow bodybuilding protocols. I mean, they're just trying to, for whatever reason, that's their thing. And man, the idea of cross programming and just the way that it worked, sort of kind of came to me a little bit because it was different. It was fast. It was basically the total opposite of what I dealt with every single day. Golf can be very long, can be very slow, can be very mundane. And the idea that I can go spend 6-8 hours in a practice schedule, and I can go in 30 minutes and literally not be able to breathe or even less than that in some workouts. And just learning how to just manage that. And that became super interesting to me. And I actually did an interview yesterday with a teaching instructor, and I don't know if he was necessarily trying to bait me into, hey, CrossFit sucks for golfers. And I just said, man, have you ever thought to a certain point that not everything in my life revolves around what I do for a living? And I just think that people see super high level athletes and they think 24/7, all I think about is my job. Is my job a priority? Is it something that I am passionate about and continually want to get better at? But there's also things I need to do to get away. And I mean, Matt, you can speak to this as well. You're the fittest guy in the world, but you're 24/7, 365 days a year. You have to figure out a way to get away from that. And every person have to.
I mean, that's something I've been dealing with over probably the last year or two. Was, after my 2015 season, I just said, screw this. I don't want this to be my story. And so it's I was like, this is a short period of my life. At the time, I thought I would have been retired for a couple of years by now. So I was willing to go all right, I'm going to take 1 or 2 years and just do every decision is going to revolve around winning the games. And so my life became very simple. It was if there was a decision to be made, I only made the decision that was going to make me better at the games. But then, 3-4 years in, you're kind of okay, there's more to life than just this, that 3 or 4 days in the year, it doesn't define my life. I need to start doing some stuff for me. So, it's starting to try to find that line of, okay, like this 8 hours in the day is going to revolve around my career, my sport, competing. And then I give myself a couple hours. And then, like this whole shutdown, we took like the month of April. It's, we were training, but we went to a buddy's lodge and, we brought some equipment with us, and we're not training in like an affiliate where we have anything and everything we need. But, it was like, okay, well, we don't have a competition for a while. Let's live a little bit of life for us, But yeah, 100%. I mean, people think that every decision, every single thing revolves around that. It's like, no, like I still got a life, there's still some other interests in my life that I want to tend to.
Yeah, I think that, it's always in the back of your mind. I think anyone that does anything at the highest level, I mean, you're aware of it, but it's also too like, man, you want to get to the point when you enjoy going back into it. It's like, man, I can't wait to get in that competition again. I can't wait to hear my name called. I can't wait to feel that. But also, like, I got to figure out ways to step back. And earlier in my career, man, I'd go play 6-7 weeks in a row, take one day off, right back to it. I'm like, and in all honesty, man, I didn't know what else to do. There wasn't any priority. I didn't have any kids. My wife and I were just kind of doing whatever. And, so, different things kind of come into life as far as how it flows along, but it's definitely been, through this time, I think people have figured out a way to prioritize and, figure out other things to kind of go into it. I remember talking to a friend of mine that plays on tour. He was like 7 days in. He's like, man, I don't know how to just not go practice. Like, I don't know how to I don't know how to sleep past 8 and not, train and practice and, play 36 holes a day. I was like, I do. I do.
No, I mean, it's funny though. Also, like when that's your routine for years, like I know for me, it's like when I take an off day, when I take a complete rest day, I don't do anything. I love it. Like I live for my rest days and I do nothing and I'm able to enjoy it because I know the next day I'm right back in the grind. I know that, okay, in like when I wake up, it's like I got whatever it is, 14 hours and then I'm back to training. But then if I take a second day off, then it's just full depression. Like I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with my time. I don't know how to relax. I don't know how to sit still. It's so foreign to me. But yeah, that was one thing. It was interesting that you said, I want to make sure that when I come back from my off season, that I want to go back to training. I want to go back to competing, because that's something I've said for years. I know I'm one of few that takes a proper off season. I don't do anything. I don't have a diet. I don't have a sleep schedule. I don't train, stretch, nothing. I step away, and it's never a set amount of time. And it's always like, when people ask, how much time do you take off? I say, I take off time until I want to come back. Sometimes it's 2 weeks. Sometimes it's 2 months. And basically I take my off season until I hate myself, until I've gotten too fat. And I know, like, I just feel so out of shape that I'm like, I want to go back and start exercising again. It usually takes one photo at a bad angle, like with a group of friends where I just look like super bloated. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I should get back in the gym.
Yeah, I took, everyone will look at 2020 and be like, oh, Corona or whatever you want to call it. And kind of take it as like an asterisk. But I took right after Thanksgiving, we got that, 4 to 6 weeks off. And I took 3 weeks, did family stuff, holiday stuff, still trained like gym stuff, but by no means zero golf whatsoever. And I was making fun of some of my friends that are not professional golfers, just, average golfers that just love to play every single day. And they were talking about being golf sore. And I was like, golf sore? Like, I have heard it all. But I can imagine, Matt, those after that 2 months and that first couple of days in the gym, you're like, what did I just do to myself?
So for 4 years now, every time I go back into the gym, the first week back, O'Keefe has to talk me off the ledge. Like, I'll talk to him and I'm like, dude, I did too much. I went too far this year. I lost it. I'm not fit anymore. Because like I have like certain workouts that I'll do when I first come back, and I know they'll be on like a rower or like certain intervals. So there's no opinion on, oh, did I do it well? Did I not? It's like, no, hold this pace for this amount of time and you can kind of check the box. Kind of takes the thinking out of it when you're first coming back. And I'll be quitting workouts halfway through. Like I'm 5 minutes in and I just like walk away. And I'm like, I lost it. I'm done. And it happens every year. And it is so discouraging. And every year I'm like, why do I do this to myself? But then sure enough, like a week back, your lungs start getting back and you just get back in the routine of, waking up, not eating pizza for breakfast and, acting like a normal human.
Yeah. I went down to Jupiter right before I started my season in Palm Springs, which was the second week of January. But I went back a week after Christmas. I went down to Jupiter and practiced with some guys. And I literally, basically the equivalent of what you were saying, I went from not doing anything for about a month to full training, like, a month out of the games. And you're just like, I'm ready. I just go right back into it. No big deal. And the first 4 days I was down there, I was like, I feel fine. I made sure I was sleeping, I was training through it in the gym, making sure I was feeling good. And that fifth day, and I felt like I had run over by every semi truck in the state of Florida. Yeah. And I was like, I remember calling my wife and my kids in the morning, and my wife's like, "You look awful." I was like, I feel
that's always encouraging when your loved ones tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Of like,
whoa. I was like, I don't know how I look, but if you could imagine, I feel worse than that. And like my back hurt, and I was like, all right, I made fun of those guys. Karma got me. I made fun of my friends from being golf sore, and I just went right back into it. And but just like you said, 3 or 4 days, took one day, kind of worked on my body a little bit, and man, I was like right back into it. No big deal.
Yeah.
Ready to roll again.
I've learned my lesson. I've gotten punched in the face enough times doing this, and now it's like, I remember, forget if it was this year or last year, I took such a long off season. I wasn't even in the routine of going to the gym. And so I literally told myself, like, all right, today I don't need to work out, but I need to go to the gym. So I found out when my friends were going, like when they got out of work, like 4:30, 5:30, whatever it was. And I just went to the gym. And they were like, oh, all right, what workout you want to do? I'm like, oh, I'm not doing anything. I'm here to watch you guys work out. This is like baby steps. I'm going to the gym, not doing anything yet. And I did that for like 2 or 3 days. And then the next day I was like, all right, I'm going to back squat 135 and I'm going to bench 135. And then like literally just baby steps back into it. Oh, yeah. If I take too long of an off season, it's rough.
Yeah. One of my really good friends that is another guy that's trained with us through this whole quarantine is a lightweight 155 UFC fighter. And he walks around fairly close to mine. He's a little bit shorter than me, but probably walks around about 180, 185. So, yeah. I mean, he is dialed. Like I was at his last fight in New Mexico, and just to see someone's body like in person like that, you're like, holy cow.
Especially when
he does the same
thing. Them like 25 pounds heavier. Yeah. It's wild.
And then to go in and, even he won his fight, he came back and, even he knew when we were training at my house and going into it, and he would just show up exactly the same. He's like, if I don't keep this part of my routine, if I just completely get away from it, like I'm going to forget how to do all this. The first day we were doing these biker intervals, and like it was, I don't know, we were dying. And he sat there and ate donuts, like while we were working out. He's like, "I made it here. Don't judge me." Yeah. He's sitting there. He's like, "That looks hard. Oh, that looks worse." And
wrestlers and fighters are on a different level when it comes to like after they compete. Like it's one thing for us, like like our diets are dialed in. We usually eat pretty healthy and stuff, but for them, oh my dude, for 4 years, I lived with like all the top wrestlers in the country, at the Olympic Training Center, the Olympic Education Center. And these guys are going through these weight cuts where it's like for a week, they'll eat like 2 tomatoes and then that's it. And I remember watching them they kept notes. They like each had a sheet of paper and they would write down all the food that they were craving during the weight cut, so that immediately after the fight, they would just like go and on a shopping spree and buy everything. I've never seen people put on weight and blow up so quick. Like they'll walk around 180, drop down to 155, and then shoot up to 210. It is like the swings are crazy.
Yeah, I did I said, man, I just want to understand from your mentality, like, there's a lot of aspects about my job and my career that doesn't involve an incredible amount. There is a mental grind that goes into it, and there's just dealing with everything that comes your way day in, day out. I said, but I just want to just feel like just put myself in physical suffering, not from training. So I went through a 3-hour weight cut with him. He put me through it. And I was like, the sweat thing, the sauna blanket, basically you're single skip jump roping and you feel like you're 100 years old. You're what is happening to me? And I just wanted to feel like how to just mentally get through that.
So how much weight did you lose in that 3 hours?
10 pounds.
10 pounds.
Isn't that crazy to know that you're physically capable of doing that?
It was incredible, man. But just like you said, those guys are completely different animals. But one of my buddies' last fights, we went with him. We got a place in town that we go eat at, and we after he fights, we go to this one place. We let us know that we're coming in, and it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We had one beer at lunch, and we flipped a coin to see who drove home because we all felt so bad. And just I have never seen a human eat like that. And I feel like I can hold my own. Like, I may not eat like that like I used to back in the day, but I mean, it's still in there if it need be.
They've been dreaming about that moment for like 10 days of like, oh, next time I get to eat, I'm going to eat everything.
Yeah, he basically about 2 weeks out, he just communicates in like food emojis. It's like, man, I hope training's going well. Donut.
Yeah. So when he puts you through that weight cut, like what was involved with that? I want to hear more about this because it is so interesting to me.
So I was telling Matt O'Keefe earlier, our other friend is the catcher for the Nationals, and they were in the midst of the World Series. And I was like, man, let's watch a World Series game and watch our buddy play. And I said, I'll just do it. You can sit there. And he had just fought too. So he was just living the high life. And he was like, sure, I'll watch our buddy's World Series game and put you through hell. Awesome. Sounds great. And so I'd had a suit. I had like full sweats. I had the sauna suit. I had like a toboggan, and I did 20 minutes in the sauna blanket. Like, you start off, well, I had a bike erg and a jump rope, and I think I had like a 10-pound like Dynamax ball. Mm-hmm. And I was just going through, just trying to just build up a little bit of heat, and then I had 20 minutes. And then you had a timer, and I'd come out for about 5 minutes. And in all honesty, the blanket was not bad. Like, I've done sauna stuff. I've done heat, hot, cold contrast. And I definitely prefer cold more than hot. But the thing that I hated is, for my livelihood, if I mess my hands up, like, I am screwed. Mm-hmm. And once he told me I could take my hands out of the blanket, so I just kind of stuck them out the side, I felt like I could do it a long time. But I guess, he's done a million of them. So after 3 hours, he kind of knows, like, man, if someone's never done this guy's about to feel really bad.
Yeah.
So, but it was, I mean, about like 20 minutes in the blanket. I just laying there, just literally sweating.
What is a sauna blanket?
It's basically like a heavy sleeping bag that's got heating coils all the way through it. You basically can zip it up all the way through your neck. Oh,
okay. It's like one of those like personal sauna, like the portable saunas.
Yeah.
Okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And I got in there, and he just covered me in towels, and I was like, "What are you doing, man?" He's like, "We got to keep the heat off of you." I was like, "I thought I want heat." He's like, "No, like burn you."
Oh,
yeah. I was like, "Oh yeah, let's do more of those towels." And you're just in there, just taking it like it's, you don't really think about it, and then you get out. And he pulls this towel, and he just wring it like that just came out of me.
Like, that was me.
But and it more just an interest to me, like wanting to know, kind of, all right, I'm going to be uncomfortable. How long can I deal with it? Am I going to, take a knee? Am I going to just push through it? Am I going to, just embrace uncomfortable moments and just come out better on the other side? We played in San Diego earlier this year, and I've gotten to know Bridges pretty well out there, and training with him a few times. And I had a red eye, and I got done playing in the afternoon. I was like, man, I'm just coming to your house. And we did this contrast. He had a 32-degree ice tub and a 200-degree barrel sauna, and we were just back and forth. It was like, what are we doing, man?
Oh no, I do that 4 or 5 times a week. I got the cold tub on this side, sauna on that side, and you put the timer on 20 minutes in the sauna at 200 degrees, and it's like the first 5 minutes you're like, oh, this feels so nice, and then the next 5 minutes you're like, all right, yeah, this is pretty hot, and then the last 10 minutes you're just dying, and it's just like this fountain of water dripping off your nose. But good to know. Like I can survive through some uncomfortable times.
Yeah, it was weird. Like his tub was, I don't know, 35 degrees or whatever. And I mean, I was like head first diving in there.
Oh, when you come out of the sauna, and into the cold tub, there is nothing better. There is no better feeling than coming from like a 200-degree room and just diving into a cold tub.
But just
and vice versa too, getting back into the sauna.
But just that kind of stuff, like I want to put myself in uncomfortable spots, and when I look at like, oh man, I have to go practice today for my career. It's like, man, I did all that. Like this is nothing.
Yeah.
Like woe is me. I have to go practice. Being really good at golf. Like no one's feeling bad for me, and I'm not going to go and try to feel bad for myself. I just think that I just try to be around people that are way better at me and a lot of other things, and try to learn from them, and just having a relationship like that to try to, it's like, he's really, you want to do a weight cut? It's like, yeah, I just want to feel what that feels like.
Yeah.
What is the
he's like that's probably why we're
no, go ahead, Scott. No, go ahead.
It's like, that's probably why we're friends. And so the best example, not to cut you off there, Matt, but we were talking about some of the stuff through this quarantine that we've never done. So we wrote down all these things we were going to do. We're going to do like a workout the first week, and then we're going to do it like every couple of weeks and kind of see how much better we got at it. So we did some workouts. We're like, all right, let's do this and let's do that. And, I was like, man, we should run a half marathon. So the baseball guy and I have been running quite a bit, and the UFC guy's like, all right, I only run 3 miles. That's all I run. Like, awesome, man. That's what you want to do. So he would come run 3 miles with us, and he would turn at 1.5 miles. He would turn around wherever we went. So we had this plan the entire time. We were going to go run a half marathon on this day. I had a route planned out. We were going to do this. About 5 minutes before we're getting ready to go, he calls, like, where are y'all? Like, we're here. He's like, oh, I went to the wrong park. I'm going. Like, man, you've never run more than 3 miles in your life. He's like, there's no way I'm going to let you guys, I'm going to train with you guys 6 days a week and have you guys do this and me not do it with you. And it's like, that's probably why we're friends, because we're all lunatics. And I think you got to have people like that.
Just a glutton for the suffering.
Yeah, just like, man, I'm going to go suffer. I'm probably going to hate you guys through the whole part of it. At 6 miles in, he's like, I need new friends. I hate you guys. Like, thankfully, I'm so tired. Like, I can't fight you, but if I could, I would kill you. But just things like that. And we got through it, and it was fine. I get a ton of grief because I used this programming thing to plan the route out, and I mapped the road instead of the trail. They're a lot different if you've ever done that. So I mapped the road, and it was just under 14 miles. Well, the trail was 17 and a half.
You missed the mark there.
Yeah, we finished. We got through it. I've still never heard the end of it. That was like 3 weeks ago, and but it is what it is. But just stuff like that. Like, you got to find people around you. No matter what you do, you got to find people out there going to push you to get better. And I've been very fortunate to have those guys in my life.
I want to ask you a little bit about the road in general. Now you're about to get back at it, and you said that you're about to embark on a 11 out of 13 week stretch. I'm a road warrior. I travel a lot. I travel every week. So I sort of know a little bit of it. But what is that like? And I have some questions about sort of team when it comes to that too. But what's it like to travel like that? You know, do you invest in 6 weeks away, never come home? That's, physically grueling, mentally tough, family separation. And Matt, like when they go, like Sunday, the tournament's over, Monday is the start of the next tournament from a practice round perspective. And there's a thing in the golf tournament world there. If they don't play in the pro-am, they get thrown out of the golf tournament. It's a requirement of them as a tour pro to play in the pro-am, and it's how they raise money, correct?
Yeah.
It's the charitable part of the event.
So they do that,
which is the whole thing in itself.
Yeah, and you got to play with 3-4 guys that could be the worst players in the world, and you're like trying to be a pro and get ready for a tournament. But so it's like a 7-day commitment, essentially, right? 6 days, but what's that like?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, as Matt was saying, he did, 4 years ago. It's different than it is now. I mean, it's the same thing for me. I travel differently than I used to. My family traveled with me for the last 7 years, basically probably 90% of the time. Now, predominantly now that my son's in school, I travel by myself a decent bit. I have a different set of priorities, now outside of golf, like, sleep and recovery is important, diet, nutrition is important, training is important. So I know golf is what it is in terms of like when I go to the course and I do this and that, but I want to have as much control as I possibly can outside of that. Mm-hmm. So I stay in a lot of houses, Airbnb, home away, whatever you want to say, and try to figure it out so I can maximize my time off the course to make sure I'm ready to go when it is. But a lot of it's trial and error. A lot of it's experience and understanding like what works best for me. I like when I go West Coast, I always go probably. So for instance, we go our first tournament's in Dallas. That's a 1 hour time difference. So I'll go Monday morning super early, and get there and have plenty of time through the day. 1 hour doesn't bother me at all. But that West Coast, the 3 hour, the long travel day and everything, I'll go at least a day or two earlier than I normally would, just purely to get acclimated and kind of go in, get off the plane, go run, go do something to kind of get going, and then slowly but surely kind of get where this is normal. Mm-hmm. And that all comes with experience. Everyone has a bunch of different ways how they do it, and it's not necessarily wrong or right. It's just what they feel like is truly best for them. And I've seen a bunch of I've made a ton of mistakes. I've learned from a lot of different guys that have done it a lot longer than I have. But honestly, it's about maximizing your prep time as far as when you're ready for when Thursday, when your name's called. You mm-hmm. go from there.
Like the things you've picked up over the years to help you travel, help you recover. Like, do you play those cards pretty close to the chest, or like, are you fine talking about them?
No, I'm very fine talking about them. I think that, I'm not an expert. I have a lot of people that are close to me that are significantly better in a lot of aspects from a health standpoint, from a training standpoint, and I by no means got to this point by myself. And, mm-hmm. But I know what is the biggest point for me, is just understanding my body and, just like I was saying about practice and prep, as far as this off time to get ready, the same thing goes in a tournament week. Like I know what I need to do, my hips, I need to know what I need to do, from a golf swing perspective, I need to know what I need to do from a practice perspective, but from a body standpoint, sleep is a huge priority. Trying to wake up and go to bed at the same time. I have some friends of mine that we rent some houses with, and they laugh. It's like 8:30. It's like, man, I might not play till 2:00 the next day. And they're like, Scott's gone, 8:30. Yeah. Or it'll be like 8:41. And my buddy's like, what are you doing, man? Like, I was like, man, it's kind of just a general time, especially when it's something later in the day. But just knowing, how I'll respond well. And from a supplementation standpoint, my wife laughed at me last night. Through the last few weeks, not by any means have eaten just like a glutton, but, been training super hard and, the diet has not been as tight as it would normally be. I've started pulling out the stuff the last week or so, the shake at night, the just kind of the supplementation routine through the training and the practice and just kind of the long days. She's like, here we go. Yeah. And it's just like clockwork, just like you were saying about packing your bag and getting into the gym. It's like I pulled it all out, and it's like when that stuff comes out, it's like the reality steps in is, all right, we're going back to work.
Yeah.
And this is what that looks like. And I rely a lot on routine, and that's a big part of it.
You have, and Matt can relate to this. I think it's a little different in both your worlds, but the games athletes have a pretty good relationship collectively. They don't necessarily train a whole lot together, because they're so competitive. But I think golf is unique in that matter, and we've seen a lot of that emerge, especially in the last 5 years with some of the top players in the world, vacationing in the Bahamas together and being so close. But you guys help each other out, like with putting strokes and swings. Like, is that more stuff that you see stick out in the media because, there's these isolated incidents, or is that very common? Are you guys all kind of helping each other out? People have talked about, Rory McIlroy speaks of everybody that's helped him with putting that are other players that he's competing at that week. Is that a thing, or is that just like isolated incidents?
No, that's definitely a thing. I mean, I've got some guys that, one of my closest friends on tour is a guy named Scott Brown. He's from Aiken, South Carolina. And, he's in a similar boat to me. Like, his family's traveled with him. Our kids are roughly the same age. And we went on a trip, basically a couple's trip with him in December. And he's like, all right, man, I'm trying to do everything he can to like get him away from the golf course. And he's trying to I said, man, I can help you with some golf stuff if you can help me with training. I mean, dude's lost like 25 pounds, like writing his own program, like, kind of getting him going, understanding like the difference in, from strength days to metabolic conditioning, just the whole understanding of how to just take one workout and make it look 10 different ways.
Yeah.
Just a programming. And it's been really cool to kind of see the transitioning going. And I mean, the guys that I let speak into my life about my golf game are small, but they have unfettered access. And they can go in and say, man, you look really bad at this right now. What's going on? Maybe you're aware of it, maybe you're not. But I mean, the same thing, they would let me speak that into them. Now there's few guys like I can care less. Like, so what if that guy looks really bad over it? I'm not going to say anything. But the guys that I'm super close with, man, I see something on TV, even in an event I'm not playing. It's like, why are you doing that? You look awful. Maybe you think about doing this. It's like, man, I had no idea. Like, especially the guys that you play a lot of practice rounds with. And same thing, man, you're training with a guy a lot. You kind of know their tendencies and know what they're looking at, and, start to see ways to kind of help them improve and maybe some things that they're unaware of and they can't necessarily see with their own eye and kind of point it out. But, I'd say most guys are fairly cordial. I'd say some guys aren't necessarily go out of their way. I mean, it's not necessarily a secret. Like, man, there's 18 holes in the ground. We're all playing the same thing. It's just who can go out there and execute the best. And, Matt, the workout's the same for everyone. It's just who's going to go out there and execute the workout that day to the best. Like, it's not some like rocket science here. And
I've always chalked it up in the CrossFit spaces to that none of the competitors have physical contact against each other. So like, I remember like playing football in high school. Like, we were never competitive or anything, but like there were certain teams, like one guy gets a cheap shot on your quarterback or something like that. And then the resentment builds and it's like, oh, we're going to get them back. And you hit them with the cheap shot and then just boom, 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 boom. And then there's a huge team rivalry and everyone hates each other. Whereas with what we do in competing, we're all doing the same workout. We're all doing them at the same time, but his performance has no effect on my performance and there's no cheap shots or anything. So it's pretty hard to build up like a resentment or like get to a point with another competitor where you're kind of at each other's throats, So that's interesting to hear with kind of your world that it's kind of similar.
Yeah, it's very similar in regards to like, I mean, you may have like a one-off every now and then where there's a personal incident that happened that, for whatever reason.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely people always ask me, like, who's the hated person in CrossFit? Who's the most loved person? All this stuff. And it's like, there's going to naturally be like little groups of guys or girls or whatever that just get along for whatever reason. They've spent more time together because they share sponsors, so they travel. So they've gotten to know each other over the years, when regionals was a thing, they always saw each other at regionals every year. So they spent more time there, there's going to be friendships throughout there. And then there's going to be the people that just, for whatever reason, just rub someone the wrong way. And it's not that one person did anything wrong. It's just like, you just kind of see how they conduct themselves in an interview, and you're like, oh, no, don't like that person. But there's really no one that it's like where everyone just like, just it's a mutual agreement between everyone where they're like, yo, we hate that guy.
Yeah.
It's not really a thing.
Yeah, I'd say, a lot of that for us has to do with the media, and man, I just don't deal with any of that stuff. I understand that, they serve a purpose, but when it comes to like individuals, like this is the black sheep of the tour, this and that's like, man, like that's one of the 150 best golfers in the world. Like the point of how he's gotten himself to that, like, should be worth enough. What he chooses to do with his on the course or off the course antics, that's up to him. But kind of from a competitor and a fellow player's perspective, I think there's always a level of respect to, like, if you've gotten to set yourself to this spot, like, we've all earned it. It wasn't given to any of us. And I think that whether you love or hate someone, there will always be the level of respect, just because we've all earned the spot to get to where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt will laugh at this. I've described myself as a caddy often, like in any type of documentaries or, and by the way, like, it is funny, but it's literally what my relationship with Matt in competition is. Towel him off a little, encourage him, whisper something, hit a good shot.
Because you have my coach's band at every competition. So he's in the warm-up area with me and stuff. And so people have asked, like, oh, are you Matt's coach? And he's like, like, technically, yes, but no, not at all. He's like, no, I'm the guy that carries his gym bag, gets a Gatorade,
Fluff. I call myself Fluff, the fluff of CrossFit. So, but the caddy relationship's an important one in golf. It's I've actually caddied a little in some stuff for friends that are far better than me at golf. But that speak to that a little. Like, what's that mean? What does a caddy mean to you? You're, and that's why I relate it so much to Matt. It's like, it's probably a mental job. It's a support job, and there's a lot that goes into it, right? But like, you're hitting the shots and you're making the decisions. Like, what's that relationship like for you? I know it is different for others, but I know it's an important one, essentially, to everybody's success in the game of golf.
Yeah, I mean, my caddy, we've been together for a while, and man, he just has unfettered access to say what he wants when he wants. But also, he's the guy that if he puts steps in there and makes a mistake, he'll be the first person to own it. I said, man, like, you can make the biggest mistake in the world, and if you own it and you truly had my best intent or our best, like, and that was your intention, like, you're never going to get an ill word from me. But the fact that a guy tries to shy away, like, those guys aren't going to last very long, especially when you start dealing with, I mean, the margin of error that we have and the difference between winning a tournament and finishing 30th is nothing, minuscule. And understanding that, as far as just every decision that you make throughout a tournament, can be magnified in positive or negative, and just could be that, major turning point, throughout an event. And it's the caddy's job to kind of have the wherewithal to know when to speak and kind of when to back it off and go from there. But I did a thing on my caddy a few weeks ago, as far as just people just striving for content and stuff about the tour. So I had to tell some stories about him, and he lives in Dallas. His name's John. He's a great guy. And we started working and kind of get back into it, and get a great week of prep and working way into it. And just for whatever reason, got off to a horrible start in the tournament. and I bogeyed the first 4 holes of the event, just like out of nowhere. It's like, wow, man, just like punch in the face. Like we're walking to the 5th tee, and he said, "Man, you think we've given the tournament enough of a break?" and just that one moment, I go and I eagle the 5th hole, make some birdies, end up shooting under par for the day. And I mean, in that moment, I'm just looking for like, what in the world's going on here? I'm like 3-putting and, missing greens with wedges and doing all this, just making mistakes left and right. And in that one little moment, kind of stepping in, is like, "You think we've given them enough of a break so far?" He said, "Let's go show them what you're made of." And just that flip, ended up playing great the rest of the day, and just knowing the time to step in. And that's truly what makes guys really great at their job and invaluable to what they can do. All this talk as far as guys, golfers are going to go out there without their caddies is, I mean, could I play without my caddy? 100%. I'd be fine. But am I going to be better with him? No doubt. Yeah. And that whole relationship is, there's a lot more that goes into it than everyone sees him as just a bag carrier. The fact that he carries a bag for a living is literally, as far as a job requirement, is like 100th on the list. Yeah. That's just something that happens. You have to have a bag and you have to have clubs. That is just something that goes along with it. Everything else goes with a lot of our personality and how we interact with each other.
Mm-hmm. Therapist, right? Yeah, like from a tour, like one of the things I want to get to, is being a tour pro, right? I think it's funny. I make a lot of analogies with golf and CrossFit, and where CrossFit may be able to go at some point, right? Because it's a sport, individual. There's sort of this tour forming with events around the globe. It's a big crowning event. What's it like behind the curtain? Like, it's a players tour, right? So, you guys essentially, in some way, shape, or form, Jay Monahan runs, he's your guy that helps advise and operate it for you. But, the tour is a players tour, right? So the players sort of gain membership and run the tour. Like, explain, what does that mean? And like, is there, I guess even like deeper into it, like I know a little bit about it, but educate people at retirement, like, it's cuts made and, how does all that stuff work? Because CrossFitters are really interested in this now, like what's next and how do we evolve as a sport? And I read a lot about this because I think it's a really cool platform and how it's been established.
Yeah. I mean, they had a bunch of really smart guys, way smarter than me at the beginning, to determine just as far as to make it basically the players own the tour, and we're all kind of in it together, and the vesting strategy and retirement and how it goes. I mean, I was fully vested in my retirement at 26, and I mean, I'm 35 now.
How do you do that?
There's a lot of ways to do it. 5 years of 15 events. It's kind of like in baseball, service time; in football, games played, years played. I'm not sure how NHL and NBA go about it, but I know it's a similar term and how long the individual athlete has played. But I was 26. I had won twice on tour, so multiple winners. More than 5 years on tour, 150 cuts made. There's all these different vesting strategies in order to kind of get you to the ultimate, to go into it and determine how that goes into just what happens when you stop playing. And, the FedEx Cup has been a huge part of that, and the FedEx Cup bonus and everything that comes along with, you kind of look at the end of the year and like, man, it's an incredible opportunity that we have to play on tour. And with the new TV rights and everything that's taken place, it's only going to get better. And, in order for golf to go in that, to be considered a main 5 sport, the argument was in 2015, Jordan Spieth had the greatest financial year on the golf course of any golfer in history. And he made half of what Ben Roethlisberger made, who went 8-8 and missed the playoffs. And
that's awesome.
Like, I mean, this guy, Jordan, in terms of just on-course performance, and that was the best that it has ever done. And he made half of a guy that, went 500. And that's not Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger is one player, but that's just a saying of, at the time, he was the highest paid player in the league in NFL. And Jordan made half of what he made. And that was the best year in professional golf financially on the course. So the idea, as far as we just want our athlete, our number one guy, to be in the conversation as far as highest paid in every sport. And it's going to be a process to kind of get it there, but it's definitely trending in the right direction. And we've got a lot of good partners in the tour that's going to make that happen. But the business aspect of golf is incredibly different than a lot of people think. We're all independent contractors. We all have our own sponsors. We all have our own ways to generate income outside of just playing. Our brand is a big part of it, and the partners that we align ourselves with is a big part of it as well. So, there's a lot that goes into it.
The same in the CrossFit space, except there's nothing for retirement.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the fascinating things, and I don't know how involved you guys are, I know you have representatives, is how much tweaking goes on. I mean, the tour, and I'm reading a book, funny enough, about it by Dean Beam. Have you read this book?
No, we've been indoctrinated with Dean Beeman and Tim Fincham and now Jay Monahan. So
yeah. Jay's from my general area. He's a Winchester kid. I'm from Danvers. We play at competing clubs, Salem Country Club and Winchester Country Club. So I know you're a Massachusetts guy, right?
Yeah, Worcester, man.
That's it. Are you a Red Sox fan?
Yeah, I am.
I am.
So just a diehard New England sports fan. And I was telling you, my friend that is the Nationals catcher, I wear my Red Sox hat all the time. It's like, surely I can get you a better hat. It's like, man, until you know a guy that can get me a better one, this is what I'm going with.
You were born in Mass and then grew up in Tennessee. So do you still have family here?
Yeah, my sister lives in just north of the city, North Reading. So all my mom's side of the family is New England, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine, all up the coast. So I have family all over the place. And even though I didn't live there for very long, I basically spent every summer in my childhood in New England. So there's nothing like a New England summer, man. Nothing like it. So I love it up there.
There is an event back here this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, the first playoff event is at TBC Boston. So that'll be. I know the weeks have kind of moved around, but that's the first playoff event.
Yeah, what I was getting at is the tweaking that goes on. Obviously this the tour is a long-standing tour. I think the last 15 years, it's probably evolved more than it did in the prior 30 in terms of structure. And, I think it's fascinating and incredible, the beautiful minds that are behind it. I mean, last year you took a leap from a FedEx Cup that worked so well and completely flipped it on its head. And instead of that tournament running independently, now everybody kind of like ran into that tournament, and now you made the playing field level, and then there could be a putt worth 20 million, 10 million bucks. I mean, it's so and Matt's probably like roll his eyes because I love golf so much and talk about it, but it's like, I'm fascinated. I'm a sports fan, and it's like the NFL, like completely deciding to go in a different direction in it, but it's always worked. And I think it's like such a credit to Jay and that team, but the tour has like evolved so much. So Matt, basically they took the season long, and it'd be the equivalent of like ending at the games, but like there were 10 events that ran up to the games, and you were given credit for all those events. And basically you would start the CrossFit Games with 100-point lead. And then whatever played out that weekend, the last event, whoever was in front won the whole thing. And the winner got 15 million this year. The second place guy got 8 or 10. So there were putts on the 18th green, the 72nd hole of this tournament championship, the tour championship, that were worth $5 million. And guys have won the Masters, and it's been less impactful financially to them to over a putt. I mean, that's a career changer. But people were standing over putts. I remember Xander Schauffele was standing over a putt for $3 million, and people were like, "Holy cow, what's going on? This is crazy." So it's really cool how they tweak.
I've sort of been in that situation, but yeah, it's a little tense. But Scott, for those changes for you guys, I just heard O'Keefe say, there's been a ton of changes and they've all seemed to work out. How is it perceived from the athlete standpoint? Like when the changes get implemented, are you guys like, oh, okay, good. I see how this is going to work out? Or is like when you guys first hear the news, you kind of like, oh, well, what the fuck, you know?
I think from our perspective, we look at it like, thankfully we're not in the spot of what we do, but ultimately we know you go out there and execute and play like you're going to be rewarded. The biggest thing in golf is always play better. Like, what's the answer to everything? Play better. Like, you want more endorsements? Play better. You want to retire early? Play better. And that's kind of the mentality of everyone that does what we do for a living is play better. And, you hear some of the changes and some of the understanding. The FedEx Cup was incredibly confusing for a long period of time, as far as like, at one point, a guy won the FedEx Cup before even the final event was going on. No one even thought that was possible. And it happened. And imagine going to the games and you won and it's over. And you hadn't done the first workout.
Oh, like he had won the FedEx Cup before he even got to the FedEx Cup.
To the final tournament.
The finals. So you did all those events. Basically, you just dominated through the first however X number of events, and you get the games are the version of the FedEx Cup.
Yeah.
And you won. You could come DFL in every event, and it's like Mat Fraser, champion. Good job, man.
Yeah, let's work on that. Let's get that. I like the sounds of that.
I know, right?
I'll bust my ass all year to coast through the last event.
Any sort of structure in place is going to be the Mat Fraser rule. How do we make sure Matt has to compete in the last event?
Yeah, I just think different things like that. Ultimately, we play a sport that the lowest score wins and everything. Rory won the FedEx Cup last year, but they made a statement about he won the FedEx Cup and he fist pumped and everything, but he knew he had to make like a 4-footer on the last hole, and all he was telling himself is he had to make that putt to actually win the event, irrelevant of how the staggered start was. If he made that putt, he won the event outright, as if everyone started flat. He was going to win the FedEx Cup, win the event. But even if everyone started at level par, he was going to win the event, and that was his goal. And I think that's just as competitors, we all want to be in that same mentality. And I'm happy I'm not in that side of it.
Yeah, I mean, like I've had it a couple times at the games where it's like final event. I was already ahead by 100 points, and then. But it's just a competitor comes out of you. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that, hey, you can sit this one out. And it's like, all right, well, I'm already here. Like, I already got all the best competition. Let's see, And it's just like, just a natural competitor. That's why I'd say probably 99% of the people at the top of their sport, it's what they'd be doing even if there wasn't a paycheck, They're just natural competitors and they just want to go.
Yeah, even in that final event, you had a 200-point lead and you took a knee and went out there and laid an egg or whatever. At some point later on, you would go in there like, God, I'm soft, and you just won the games. But you would be thinking, instead of winning the games, you'd be thinking about, man, I should have gone. I should have worn that guy out. I should have done this.
The first time, the 2016 games final event, I'd already won before the final event. And so I went out there, and this is my first time. So I was like, okay, just go slow. Get the minimum work requirement done. Take your time. It doesn't matter if you come dead last. Get the minimum work. And sure enough, the workout started with 3 pegboards, and I walked up, got my pegs. I'm like, everyone's already halfway up, and I'm just getting to the board. And I did one, I come down, I'm chalking up, I'm taking my time. And then it was like 2 minutes into the workout, and I went, fuck this. I'm not enjoying this right now.
Yeah, just hammer down.
And I got to the bar, and it was like a 21.59 with thrusters. And I remember I picked up the bar when the guy in second place, I think he put down the bar, and he was at like 11 or 15, one or the other. And I remember just having that big, F this moment, and was like, no, this isn't fun. This isn't what I came here for. I came here to crush souls and dominate. And so I just put the pedal down, and I had no reason to. I gained nothing from doing it. I didn't win any extra money. Like, oh, instead of winning by 200 points, you won by 205. Congrats. No one cared. But it was just like, no, it's what I do. It's whatever competitor does.
Yeah, I think anyone, like you said, anyone at that upper echelon, it's like, you're not going to go out there and just go through the motions. I don't think anyone in that level would. It's like, I'm going to go out there and compete and put my best foot forward, and I can enjoy it when this is all over. But still, I came to compete in X number of events, and that's what I'm planning on doing, irrelevant of whatever is already taking place.
Mm-hmm. So tell us, obviously what's next. So you're starting the 11th, and you'll play X amount of weeks. What's the plan? Do you have are there major championships on your schedule this year, or still sort of playing into them? So what's the season look like for you this year?
Well, just the way that the season is, the British Open is moved. It's canceled for the year. The Masters and the U.S. Open are in the fall. The rest one is the PGA that's in early August. So a bunch of regular events. We got a couple invitationals, a couple of world golf events that are kind of more of an international field and kind of go along. But for the most part, man, it's a pretty unique year. Just like I probably average 27, 28 events a season. Right now I'm at 10. Like, that's how many events I've played. And just with everything that's taking place, everyone's that's 28 weeks on the road. Yeah, we're endurance athletes, man. Hey, I went and met Chris Henshaw. I went and met Chris Henshaw in a workout, and met him at the Starbucks in Cookville. I was going to Nashville and in Whole Foods in Knoxville, where I live. And I was like, hey, man, I know a lot of people that And I'm just like, totally like, who is this guy randomly talking to me? And
that's awesome.
Started talking back and forth. I knew my time. I knew my best 500 row. I knew my best 5K. I knew all these numbers in my head. And I'm like, all right, I'm ready for him. And the first question he asked me, he said, how many hours you stand a day? I'm like, what? I just want to know, how many hours do you stand a day? I'm like, I have no idea. And he's like, well, just think about it. And I said, well, I think about this. He's like, you're an endurance athlete. I was like, that's the nicest someone was ever said to me.
Chris is in a league of his own. Yeah.
Yeah. But just the volume of what we deal with over the course of the season is kind of what he was getting to at his point. And just kind of being ready for that and knowing that, when there's a chance that just with the way the season and the playoffs go, like, I could play a lot of golf in a very, very, very short amount of time, and just being mentally and physically ready for that, if and when that does take place.
Good. Mm-hmm. Well, we, first of all, thank you for coming on. I probably, I could talk golf with you for days, maybe offline, and you can answer all my silly questions. But no, I really appreciate it. Big fan. Have been a long time, even when you were 265. I used to be that same weight. I went from 250 to 185. We're brothers in that regard. But I appreciate you coming on. It's great to catch up with you. Congrats on all your success on the course and off with weight loss and, changing your life through fitness. And, wish you the best of luck the rest of the year. You got a couple fans here that'll be following and rooting you on all the way. And hopefully we can get out to see you play sometime locally. Maybe when you make it up here to Boston this year, I'll sneak my way on through the woods, even though they won't let fans come on.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I appreciate it. Huge fan of what you guys do in the sport of CrossFit and just fitness in general. And, hopefully we'll have a chance to do some more here in the future, but I appreciate you guys having me on.
We will, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Scott Stallings from the PGA Tour. This is Loud and Live Sports Podcast with Mat Fraser. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.